You know, when I think about Romney, who we now know from his own little documentary, wasn't confident that he could win, but of course he didn't clue the rest of us in, although we knew it here, didn't we? And Boehner and so forth and these others, you know, it reminds me of what Churchill said. They're modest men with much to be modest about. They're modest men with much to be modest about. Only worse than that is an immodest man who has much to be modest about. And that would be a guy like Chucky Schmucky Schumer. After he graduated law school, the schmuckster was elected to the state legislature in New York, immediately after. Then a congressional seat opened up. Then he was elected to the House at a very young age, where he served and did as much damage as he could. Then he took on Al D'Amato, in a tough year for Republicans, and he won. The man has never worked in the private sector, not for 1 minute. Not for 1 minute. He's a menace. Absolute menace. Government can't get too big for this man. It can't get too intrusive. It can't be too ubiquitous. He has no regard whatsoever for the United States Constitution. He's diabolical and he's devious. And he goes to this Center for American Progress, another misnamed group. It's really the Center for Un-American Progress, started by the idiot who works for the other idiot, Podesta. I say with all due respect. And Schumer, he wants you to think he's really smart. He wants to talk about ways to destroy the Tea Party. And he also trashes millions and millions of citizens, characterizes them in ways that are really offensive. So here's Chuck Schumer. Cut 11. Go.
We should look at electoral reform. I add this to the list with some hesitation. I'm not ready to fully commit to it, but I think we have to explore it. Our very electoral structure has been rigged to favor Tea Party candidates in Republican primaries.
Stop. So, two things. We have to change our system to prevent effective conservative opposition. This man is a Stalinist. We have to change our system, our electoral process, not for voter ID to make sure people who are voting illegally don't vote. No. We have to make sure American citizens, tax-paying citizens, maybe men and women who served in the military, whatever, but American citizens with whom he disagrees should be prevented from winning elections. And it's so crucial to him that he, being a radical statist Democrat, wishes to reach within the Republican Party process to do it. This is the totalitarian mindset that I talk about all the time and have for years and have written about. Look at him. Look at this pathetic excuse for a United States Senator. Look at him. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
Even when the district or the state may not be red. It's happened for two reasons. First, primaries, and then redistricting.
Stop. Primaries. I see. And redistricting. We can't have that. We have to have certain ways for certain outcomes. I have an idea, Schmucky. Why don't we just do away with elections when your team doesn't win, or feckless Republicans who you can quote-unquote work with don't win? That's it. You know, the Stalinists. Go ahead.
The primacy of primaries in determining who is nominated by each party is more pervasive now than it was 30 or 40 years ago before the McGovern reforms. And the people who turn out in primaries tend to be not moderates, but people closer to the extreme.
Yes, the extremes. Are there any extreme Democrats, Chucky? Of course, you're not going to look in the mirror. It would crack. But still, you're not going to look in the mirror. You're an extremist, Chucky. Your president's an extremist, Chucky. But he means those of us who believe in the Constitution. As I've said many times, you see, the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, Schumer and his agenda, Schumer and his ideology cannot coexist with our constitutional system or what it's supposed to be. So they must destroy it. They have to destroy the Constitution in order to advance their agenda. So those of us who are left, speaking out, those of us who are left trying to organize against this, well, Schumer's saying, look, we got to rig the electoral process. We have to rig the electoral process. So you and I, we can never win. Now, they've almost done it already, haven't they? Moderates. We want moderates. What he means is we want mush French Republicans so we can roll them every time like Boehner and McConnell. We can't have this Ted Cruz stuff or this Mike Lee stuff or the Rand Paul stuff or all these challenges going on. Oh, my gosh, we can't have that. I mean, after all, look what we've done in the Democrat Party. We've wiped out all opposition. We're now a purist ideological party. Our debates are over hard left versus hard left. But all you other extremists out there, we have to stamp you out. The Stalinist. That's what he is. Cut 12, go.
The Tea Party elites, with little rebuttal, have been able to make government the boogeyman. They have convinced too much of...
Government is the boogeyman. Government has my phone numbers. Government has my bank account numbers. Government has all kinds of information with me through the IRS and you. Government now has our medical records. Government's now telling us what medicines we can and can't have, what doctors we can and can't have, what procedures we can and can't have, what kind of automobiles we can drive. Oh, yes, what kind of food our kids can eat in school, what kind of dishwashers, washing machines, dryers we can have in our homes. The government even has to give its seal of approval to toasters. Yes. To baby cribs, to baby seats. We can't build a home without government approval. Well, it's true. That would include, what's in our, what kind of paint we can use, what kind of drywall we can use, what kind of roofing we can use. Oh, yes. And government wants more. If you have a puddle on your backyard, government wants to regulate that as navigable waters under EPA laws. Government is the boogeyman, you idiot. That's the problem. We want our liberty back. And if we make mistakes, we make mistakes. That's life. We're the American people. Listen to this moron. Go ahead.
That government is the explanation for all their ills. Even though most Americans...
Stop. Who said government's the explanation for all of our ills? Did somebody say that? Government is the explanation for many of our ills. There's no question about it. And cheesy politicians like you. I have an idea. They want to target the Tea Party and conservatives, the primary system and the jurisdictional systems. I have an idea. Why don't we just abolish the blue states? Hey, we can do that. What do you think of that, Chucky? Go ahead.
And even most Tea Party adherents like much of what the government does. The Tea Party elites proclaim that everything that is wrong, even non-economic and private sector problems, can be blamed on the government.
You know what's interesting about this? Many decades ago, Milton Friedman made the point that most of the major problems we have in this country are caused by the federal government. And he's right. Not all the problems in your household, with your relationships, with this, no. But Most of the big problems we have in this country are caused by government. Now, he'll say, I don't know if he says it in this clip, but he has said it, don't you like Medicare? Don't you like Medicare? Well, people on Medicare may like Medicare, but there's millions of people who aren't on Medicare who are paying into a system that the federal government itself, the trustees and actuaries for Medicare say, won't be around for them. Do they like Medicare? No. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
Their mantra, dramatically shrink government and our problems will end, is the fundamentally false but not effectively challenged premise that is the core weakness of the Tea Party, and one we can exploit to turn American politics around to the benefit of our nation.
In other words, we need all of you conservatives out there, all you citizens, all you constitutionalists, to reverse course. Embrace the inevitable, as Marx would say. Marx makes the case. You can resist all you want. You will be crushed. In the end, we will win, he says. In the end, this society will be dissolved. We will replace it with the workers' paradise, because the workers themselves will rise up. Here it's a little different. Chucky's more the Stalinist than the Trotskyite. He's not saying workers wake up. He's saying, you do what we say or else, from the top down, which is how it ultimately winds up, regardless of what you call it, communism, fascism, so forth, liberalism, it's statism. More when I return.
Mark Levin.
When's the last time Chuck Schumer went to a Tea Party rally? When's the first time? This guy presumes to speak for you because he's an arrogant, self-aggrandizing mastermind who on his own has accomplished nothing. He's produced nothing. He's created no service. He's created no wealth, nothing. No jobs, no opportunities. He is a big government parasite. That's exactly what he is. How dare he turn on you and talk down to you and treat you like you're the reptiles at the zoo. How he knows how you think and what you do and what your problems are, how to exploit you. Here's another one, just like Boehner, exposing himself. He's character assassinating himself. Cut 13, go.
The fundamental weakness in the Tea Party machine is the stark difference between what the leaders of the Tea Party elite, plutocrats like the Koch brothers, want.
Stop right there. This guy's a conspiracy nut, just as bad as the truthers. I mean this. Who are the Koch brothers, ladies and gentlemen? They're two men from a family that's very wealthy, not by stealing from anybody, not because they know somebody in elective office. No, because they made their money the old-fashioned way, through free market capitalism. And they've done so very successfully. And over the years, they've decided to support different think tanks. And recently, or more recently, they've decided it's time to get involved more politically and to support groups and organizations that are going to help save this country. And for that, they are demonized. They are viciously lied about. And you have jerks like Schumer, who's never made a plug nickel in the private sector, whose income is from you, we the people, who subsidize him and pay for his salary and his benefits and his health care and his pension and all the rest. Calls these people plutocrats. Plutocrats. So you trash men who honestly and lawfully have become very successful, and in doing so employ tens of thousands of people and create products and services that you obviously want because you're not required to buy anything from them. Plutocrats. This is what the Stalinists do. They create enemies. They create straw men, and then they try and rally the nation against them. It's diabolical. It's unconscionable. But then again, that's how you define Chuck Schumer. Go.
The average grassroots Tea Party follower wants. To the plutocrats and their allies, government is indeed the enemy.
Stop. And you're the enemy. Just listen to you, moron. You just called them plutocrats. You never explained who these men are. You never explained why we ought to look up to men like this. People who are successful, people who are making things that we want, people who are employing people and creating wealth. Thank God there are people like this, or we'd just be another third world country. Wouldn't we? I'm not done with this jerk. Almost, but not quite. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin says today, what the backbenchers will repeat tomorrow. Call Mark at 877-381-3811.
It is extraordinary for me to play these clips, so many. But, I mean, they speak for themselves, don't they? I know some hosts use this stuff as filler. I'm using this, I think, to help expose these people and to teach or to express what I consider some lessons from this. Here's more Schumer. Cut 14, go.
Of course, the plutocrats and their friends never acknowledge where government helped them. Government paved the roads and built the airports so they can ship their products. Government educated the workers that make their companies run and purchase their products. Government protected their rule of law and protected their physical and intellectual property.
Stop right there. Let's see. Roads. I'm just reading. Railroads. Actually, government didn't build the railroads. Airports. We can get into this argument whether it's the private sector or the government that built these things. The fact of the matter is, if this was all the government did, we wouldn't have a problem with government, would we? No. No. Government paves roads. Government does not build railroads, although they've nationalized railroads. I guess we call it Amtrak. Let's see. Airports, well, they usually have bonds, and they're usually not the federal government. It's usually states and localities. So the taxpayer funds all of it. All of it. Maybe we should privatize some of these things. But the point is, this is basic stuff. I'm not particularly upset about this. Government educated the workers that make their companies run and so forth. Government didn't educate the workers. What is this? Government educated the workers? Well, I mean, the workers who made their companies run and purchased their products? I don't know about you folks, but I have no say on the property taxes on my house. And they're massive. And some of these taxes go toward educating people. Some of them go toward teachers. Some of them go to whatever they go for. But we can do without, in my view, a government monopoly on education. I favor competition on education myself. But there's something even worse here, which we'll get to in a second. Go ahead.
They could profit from their products. However, in the Tea Party elite's almost fanatical desire to reduce taxes and regulation on their companies, they conveniently ignore these facts.
Stop. Is this what makes America unique? That the government builds roads? Is this what makes America unique? That the government builds airports? I mean, it's us, but you get my point. That we have government-run schools. Is that why America's unique? Is that why we're different from Britain and France and Germany? No, that's not why. And this is something this jerk will never understand. Any industrialized country can build roads and schools and airports, and they do. They even do this in Russia. They do it in China. That's basic stuff. We live in a republic. That's what makes us different. We live in a republic with a constitution that limits what the federal government can do. That's what makes us different. We live in a republic founded on the basis of individual sovereignty and unalienable rights, words that never pass this jerk's lips. That's what makes us so successful and great as a nation. We didn't become the number one economic power on the face of the earth because we know how to build roads and airports, for crying out loud. We became the number one economic power on the earth because somebody figured out how to refine oil. Because somebody figured out how to bring electricity to our homes. Because somebody figured out to invent a toilet and running water and automobiles and on and on and on. That's why we are who we are. Because we respect the individual. Because we want to promote success. Because people who put their time and effort and resources behind something should make a substantial profit if that's what they want to do. And what is profit? Do you make profit by robbing a bank? No. That's illegal. You make profit by providing something that all kinds of people want, and they want lots of it. That creates assembly lines. That creates a workforce. That creates a middle class, quote unquote. We had an industrial revolution, not because of government, but because of individual initiative. And we have these luxuries not because of government, but because of the people. The people. And he never talks about the individual, and he never talks about the people. It's about government, which underscores the point I make time and time again. The Democrat Party and jerks like this, they're not about the people. They're not about individuals. They're about government. And there's no end to this. So big damn deal. The government builds roads. Wow. And airports. Wow. Who cares? We pay for the whole damn thing. But what government cannot do is substitute for you. But he's all about government. This is a very sick mind. A very sick mind. Here's a United States Senator, ladies and gentlemen, who doesn't even understand our founding. This is a United States Senator who rejects the Declaration of Independence. This is a United States Senator who rejects the Enlightenment. And yet they claim to embrace it all. Remember we talked about Brave New World the other night? Oh, we'll call it a democracy. We'll call it voting. We'll call it free will. But it won't be any of those things. Chuck Schumer's Brave New World. It's amazing to me. Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing special about a government that can build roads. Nazi Germany, they built roads. Tojo's Imperial Japan, they built roads. Mussolini's Fascist Italy, they built roads. In France today, they build roads. In Holland, they build roads. In Brazil, they build roads. Is that what Americanism is about? Is that what America is about? We are an exceptional society. We are an exceptional people. Not because of government, but in spite of it. Every one of the delegates to the Constitutional Convention understood that. They weren't celebrating government. They were trying to figure out what kind of government to establish that wouldn't destroy the individual, but would create a stable atmosphere, a stable environment for the perpetuation of liberty and commerce and progress. They'd be appalled at this idiot Schumer and the other idiots. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, is that offensive? He can call people plutocrats? Pathetic. Chuck Schumer's a robber baron. I've explained this before. Chuck Schumer wants to rob individuals, free enterprises of their wealth, run it through his own slimy hands, and decide who should and shouldn't get. Well, who died and named him king? Where does he get his genius from? A man who thinks he can run every industry, a man who thinks he can regulate everything, who's never spent one single day among us, not one single day among us in the private sector. Zero. Just like his buddy Obama. And he talks to us this way, and he talks about us this way. Tea Party conservatives. We are American citizens, by God. We are American citizens by right. Not because of him, not because of Obama. We are American citizens under our Constitution. We didn't crawl across the border. We're not here illegally. We're here legally. We are the sovereign. We are the people. We are not subjects. We're not to be talked down to this way by this man. Any group of morons can create a centralized, all-powerful government. And that's what we have now in Capitol, for the most part, a group of morons. It takes true brilliance and self-restraint and education and experience to do what the framers of the Constitution did. Oh, they built roads. Oh, how wonderful. They can build roads. If they're trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in taxes, in spending, in borrowing, they can build roads. Wow, what a feat. And you know what's even funny about that? If the environmental statists who work at the EPA and their partners in these phony front environmental groups had their way, we wouldn't even be building roads anymore. We couldn't build the Hoover Dam anymore. Could we? We can't get pipelines built now from Canada. You jerk. Oh, they build roads, though. Good for them. Last one, maybe. Cut 15, go.
The fundamental contradiction here is not only that government didn't cause many of these problems, but the average...
How does he know what's caused your problems, ladies and gentlemen? How many of you have actually met Chuck Schumer? 99.9% of you in this audience, you don't know him. You've never met him. He's never discussed with you what your problems are, what's affecting your family, if it's taxes, if it's regulations, your health care. He doesn't know a damn thing about any of you. And yet listen to him talking about your fundamental contradiction. The government didn't cause many of these problems. Go ahead.
Citizen, and even the average Tea Party member, likes and wants to retain most of what government does, especially when it is broken down into its component parts. The average Tea Party member, like the average American, likes government-run Medicare.
Stop. Likes government-run Medicare. This is fascinating to me. If the average Tea Partier likes government-run Medicare, if the average person likes government-run Medicare, then why are they destroying it and replacing it with Obamacare, which the average Tea Partier and average American doesn't like? He doesn't even make any sense. None. Well, Mark, does the average Tea Partier like Medicare? I'm a Tea Partier, and I don't like it. And I suspect a lot of it depends on your age and your situation. But I will say this, just to show you how devious this argument is. Since 1966, people in this country who work have been forced, as a matter of federal law, to pay into Medicare. employers have been forced, as a matter of federal law, to pay into Medicare. You've paid a fortune into Medicare. You've been made promises by your federal government. And so in doing so, you become reliant on it. Because there's very few alternatives. You're taking what you've earned really at the point of a bayonet, because you will go to prison if you don't pay your taxes. Forced to pay into this system. You now need this system. You don't have those resources anymore after a 20, 30, 40-year career. And he says, see, you like your Medicare, don't you? You like your Medicare, don't you? As if you have an option, as if you had an alternative. Well, what if there hadn't been Medicare in 1966? Because there wasn't Medicare prior to 1966 throughout the rest of our history. You would have had resources to pay for health care, to save for health care. There wouldn't be health care inflation. Oh, I can explain it. The problem is it'll take too long for your average status. Definitely for Chuck Schumer. But don't worry, they're going to build roads. And, like that stimulus. What was it, $1 trillion? And Paul Ryan came on the show a couple years ago, and he said $9 billion of which went to actual job creation for roads and bridges. Truth is, they can't even do that right. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Here's my challenge to Chuck Schumer. Pay attention, Chucky. I know your little staffers are listening. You're so sure all of us want to participate in all these big government programs and entitlements. I have a suggestion. Let's put it to the test. Why don't you allow those of us who don't want to participate opt out? I want to opt out of Social Security. I want to opt out of Medicare. I want to opt out of paying for Medicaid. I want to opt out of paying for unemployment insurance. What do you say, schmucky? But you'll never allow that, will you? You don't allow choice and competition and all those things that would prove you wrong. So you get in front of a friendly group and you mouth off like you know what the hell you're talking about. More mastermind bullcrap from you. They love all these programs. Okay. Then let us opt out if we don't. What's the problem? The reason is, ladies and gentlemen, they steal our money, they throw you a few crumbs, and then they pretend, oh, look what we're doing for you. We should play this clip over and over and over again. The problem is we'd want to go on the roof and jump off with this guy. But that said, you want to retain most of what government does. I don't want to retain any of these big programs and entitlements and all the rest. I don't get to vote. I don't get to make a decision in my own case. And there are millions of us who would say, okay, we're out. But they don't give us that option, do they, ladies and gentlemen? No, they don't. Every time somebody makes a proposal where there's just a little bit of competition introduced into these programs, jerks like Schumer freak out. And then they get into their class warfare and all the rest of it. It's the reason why so many young people in this country want nothing to do with Obamacare, because they figured out that they'd be suckers. They'd be paying into a system where they get almost nothing out of it. And by the way, we abuse our young people left and right to pay for all these programs. And then we abuse them when they go to public school, too, with what goes on in many of these classrooms. So let me put the test to Schumer and all the other masterminds and their sycophants. Okay, Mr. Schumer, you think we all want all these programs? Well, then allow us to opt out. Because I'm ready to opt out because I don't want them. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
everybody. This is the Power Hour, Hour 3, the last hour of the program, the last hour of the week. I'm Mark Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. One more little one, because I want to sum this up. Bit of an extraordinary program playing these clips, but to sit here and play the speech straight through is more than any rational human being can stomach. So I needed to break it up into little pieces. So finally, at the Center for Un-American Progress, Chucky Schmucky Schumer sums it up this way. This is worth listening to, really. Cut 16, go.
Let's remind people, the reason they're frustrated in Washington and is that government is not that government.
All right, let's stop. Can this idiot even read a one-sentence line on a teleprompter? They're one-syllable words. Is, not, that, one-syllable words. Chucky, let's start from the beginning, shall we? Cut 16, go.
Let's remind people, the reason they're frustrated in Washington and is that government is not that government is doing too much, but that it is gridlocked and not doing enough.
Oh, government's not doing enough. That's what it is. Let me tell you why he and his ilk will never tell you what their end game is. Let me tell you why he and his ilk will never put out their blueprint, their design for the perfect society, utopia. They won't tell us what the utopia ultimately looks like, because in the end, it's totalitarian in nature and kind. That's why. This isn't about building roads. This is about destroying you. And in addition to the question that I put to Schmucky, rhetorically, because he doesn't have the guts to come on this program, he never has, let me put this question in addition to the one I asked about, will he allow us to opt out of programs that we don't want, that he says we all want, which he won't. Let me ask you this, Chucky. The Social Security system is unsustainable according to the trustees and actuaries. The Medicare system is unsustainable according to the trustees and actuaries. According to the General Accountability Office, federal spending generally is unsustainable. This is in the Liberty Amendments. I am citing government sources for this, Schmuckster. So all these programs are unsustainable. The government itself is unsustainable. Do the laws of economics apply to you, Chucky, to your agenda, to your policies, to your party? I think they do. So in the end, if we follow you, Chucky, we follow you to collapse, to catastrophe, right off the edge of the cliff. This is what the Tea Party's concerned about. This is what conservatives are concerned about. You and morons like you. You're not giving us anything. We pay for everything. We work. We pay taxes. We're the few who do. Don't treat us like the losers, like the others who you've gotten to live off of government, who've surrendered to your mentality or been conquered by it. There's still some of us who believe in the American spirit, Chucky. And we're not so easily dismissed or exploited or whatever you say. You are a quintessential demagogue, but you're a lightweight. And when ultimately the history books are written about America, either how we, the people, came out from under, or we didn't, you, Chucky, won't even exist. You won't be a footnote to a footnote to a footnote in history. Because there are just too many like you in government who are destroying our republic and our economy and our society. Oh yes, the cockroaches are everywhere. They just are. You're not going to silence us. You're not going to stop us. No matter how bad it gets, no matter how much you try. There's just too many of us. It's not going to fly. You may try your little spin, your propaganda, your demagoguery, and it may work with your constituents who vote for you, but it doesn't work for us. We view you as dangerous. Not just you, but your ilk. And the reason, ladies and gentlemen, that I've taken so much time with Chuck Schumer today, and Boehner before him, is to expose, with their own words, their own actions, their own conduct, our problem. And it's twofold, if I can put it in simple terms. We have a Republican Party that is neo-statist, that is timid, that is cowardly, except when it's attacking us. We have a Republican Party, if it were a man, is middle-aged and getting old, with pot belly and yellowing teeth, and tank-top T-shirts with chocolate stains on it. We need a marathon runner. Instead, we get a few people sitting on their couch, drinking swill, and smoking, and having a grand old time. And we're told that we need to rally around that. I choose not to. Then we have a Democrat Party, which is a purist, ideological party. Not unlike the Fabian socialists of Europe, and quite frankly, not unlike their Marxist forefathers. I'm not saying they're identical, but they're identical enough. And you can hear it in Chuck Schumer's statements. Government is good. Government needs to be bigger. You like government. You want more government. But for government, we wouldn't have this. But for government, we wouldn't have that. Your problems are your own, not the government. Absolute mindlessness. Idiocy. From a man who's never worked a cash register at a 7-Eleven, but is telling oil companies how to conduct themselves. These are the people who are orchestrating the end of this country as we know it. They'll be in America, it just won't be this America. These are the people who day after day vote in such a reckless and unconscionable way. They will cause the collapse of this society, a catastrophe. These are the people who are the greatest danger that you and your children and your grandchildren face. Because they do these things out of quote-unquote righteousness. You hear the righteousness in his voice? Because they do these things claiming to help you. That's the worst kind of tyranny. It's the worst kind of tyranny. Where does it end for Chuck Schumer? It never ends. Where does it end for Barack Obama? It never ends. The government gets bigger and bigger, more and more powerful, more and more centralized. Voting becomes increasingly irrelevant. Oh, you'll vote. But the levers of power have no connection to the vote. And you'll be caught in this maze of bureaucracy and red tape. Alexis de Tocqueville talked about it at great length in his 2 volumes, and others have too. You'll be suffocated. You'll be smothered by this. And then, with so much liberty gone, and so much of your money gone, oh, you like these programs because you have nothing else. There's nothing else to like. There's no alternative. There's no alternative. It's not that you like these programs. These programs have been imposed on you. This is a very sick mentality. To take the greatest nation on the face of the earth and try and turn it into this? Chuck Schumer? Well, who would you rely on? James Madison or Chuck Schumer? Who would you rely on? George Washington or Harry Reid? Who would you rely on? Bernie Sanders or Thomas Jefferson? Do you see the pipsqueaks here in our modern life who we're talking about? Pipsqueaks. It doesn't take smart people to pass laws to steal your money and liberty. It doesn't take smart people to pass laws to keep expanding the size and the breadth of the government. Any idiot can do that, whether the idiot is a senator or a dictator. What really takes intelligence and wisdom and judgment is to recognize the magnificence of this society, to show self-restraint when you're in a position of power, and to take only those steps that you're authorized to take under the Constitution which you swore to uphold. Chuck Schumer is none of these things. He's the opposite. He's the hack demagogue that the framers feared the most. And I'm going to tell you folks something. And I've talked about this and written about it before. I don't care what kind of system of government is set up. If we have people in power who lack virtue, then it's over. And that's what we have. So let me come full circle. Chuck Schumer lacks virtue. If this is considered controversial, I'm sorry. It's the truth. The President of the United States, a serial liar, he lacks virtue. And this one will hurt a lot of my friends. John Boehner, you heard him? I played the clips. Jay Leno, he lacks virtue. That's why he doesn't stand on principle. And that's why people like Schumer and the others will lie, staring you straight in the eye. These are power-hungry people who are very comfortable with what's going on. And they do not understand the American people, and they do not understand our heritage.